What's up, travelers? So, in this little video today, we're going to be talking about houses, house rulerships, and how you could further your understanding of a chart with actually looking at the house rulers. So, I'm going to be giving you an example with Albert Einstein's chart, which is there. Was born on March 14th, 1879 at 11:30 a.m. at Ulm, ULM in Germany. So this is his chart. I was wondering who to pick because I needed like the right time and stuff, and I figured everybody knew Einstein and like it wasn't a politician or something like that. So yeah, dude, my hair looks so much like a Leo today because the sun is actually at 10 degrees on my Mars in Leo, so it's like super Leo. Anyway, so let's just jump right in. So I was asked actually like what the Ascendant was, or like to make a video about the Ascendant, and there's a lot to be said about it. I could go into like details, I guess, as to what each Ascendant is, in a sense. But instead, I'm going to make this video, and it doesn't mean I won't do the other videos where I'm like, oh, this is Aries Ascendant, this is this and that. But I'm going to be showing you really how deep I could go looking at Albert Einstein's Ascendant, just through rulerships and such. So, really, the Ascendant, if you're looking at the Ascendant, it's the point, and I'm using the Placidus house system because this is what I use. So, the Ascendant is the point between the subconscious, the 12th house, and the first house, which is the appearance and the conscious self. So the Ascendant is really the balance between those two things. It's kind of like the role we take. Some people would say it's our actual soul. So if you want to see how his Ascendant plays out, well, he's a Cancer. I'm not going to go into the decans in this video. I have a video on the decans if you want to look at that. But his actual Ascendant is Cancer, so it's ruled by the moon. So naturally, Cancer Ascendant, I'm actually a Cancer Ascendant. These people are more nurturing in a sense, or really the role they take on is that they deeply identify emotionally to something. If you want to see what that something is, you have to look at where the moon is in the chart. There's a lot to be said about Cancer Ascendant, but there are many resources to see what just that is about. But if you want to see how precisely his own Cancer Ascendant plays out, you go and look at the moon. So the way that he is of service, and the way he kind of nurtures, and what he emotionally relates to, in a sense, what he identifies to, is things of the 6th house. So when he's in a certain service, he will be able to really play out his role. He will really identify to the service he's given. And what kind of service is it? Well, you could see that like the moon is in Sagittarius, so it's expanding on higher learning. You could see that like Einstein is really about, he really pushed the science forward, really, and he was able to see the multiple flows of energy, kind of like intuitively, but while playing at it. And at the same time, Sagittarius is all about the light and controlling the light. So right from the back, you could see kind of who he is. If you want to see really how his moon plays out, you have to look at his house, which is a 6, so it means he's of service to others, but at the same time, the ruler of his 6th house is Jupiter, because it is Sagittarius. And I say that Sagittarius is co-ruled by the Earth, and the Earth is always opposite to the Sun. But let's just go at Jupiter right now. So if you're looking at the 6th house ruler, which is Jupiter, it's in the 9th house. So again, the 9th house is all about being a student of something, or expanding about what the 9th house is about. And in the ruler of his 6th is Sagittarius, which is Jupiter, which is already reminiscent of like someone who likes to expand on stuff and on higher learning. So you go to see his ruler of Sagittarius, which is Jupiter, which is in the house kind of that is linked energetically to Sag. So it's in the 9th house, and the ruler of Sag is actually Jupiter. So you could really see that he expands on stuff. And you could say, let's say, this is mostly about the houses, but I'm gonna add some little bits of details in there. Is Jupiter in Aquarius is all about expanding on the abstract intellect of things. Aquarius really is a sign of the mind. It's air, and it's about bringing a polar shift. And if it's in the ninth house, it's bringing a polar shift and expanding on things on the mind and on higher learning. Now, you want to look at the other ruler of the sixth house, which is the earth for me. Some astrologers would not agree, but within my realm of experience, it works. So if you're looking at the other way he is of service by expanding on what he relates to, so on expanding on the higher learning that he relates to, is also dealing with the structure of things in a certain sense, because the earth really is where we reside. It's the physical plane. So as much as he's expanding on the abstract through his Jupiter in Aquarius, you're also looking at the earth, which is always opposite to the sun. So it's in Virgo. So again, it's interesting because both ruler are like in the ninth, so it's the house of Jupiter and Sag, and the other is in the fourth house, which is linked to the moon naturally. So the way he relates to stuff also is going to be dealing with what people live on Earth, things that are linked to the five senses in a sense, and he's deeply going to relate to that, and it's going to help him kind of like expand on where he feels at home. So you know now how his ascendant plays out to one level, meaning that he relates to stuff emotionally. He goes with his gut feeling because that's the moon in Cancer. The way he does it is by being of service to others, by expanding on what he feels about, expanding on the light, dealing with spectrums of light, because Sagittarius plays with the light, it boosts it, reduces it, where like the other fire signs like Aries is more about like an explosion, a charge almost, and Leo is about being a steady fire, right? So the way he plays out his ascendant is, relating like that to the light aspect of things, the way he actually is of service, really, and the way he can activate his moon, which likes to relate and be of service to others, is by expanding through the first ruler in the ninth house. So again, higher learning, expanding on the abstract intellectual side of things, and going again with his gut feeling about things of the mind, because it's in Virgo, and the practicality of what he sees with his mind. Okay, so now once you know that, you're looking at the Jupiter's house ruler, which is Aquarius. So the rulers of Aquarius are Saturn and Uranus. So you first go and look at Saturn, and then you're going to look at Uranus to see how the Uranus helps the Saturn in doing its thing. So Saturn for him is in the 10th house, and it's in Aries conjunct Mercury, really. And you could go like into many details and say that really it is also playing with Venus and the Sun, because they're all in the same house. But we'll develop a little bit on that, but it's not an extensive reading. It's just to show you how you could jump from one rulership to the other to always add on to the information. So you want to see how this Jupiter in the ninth plays out, because this is how he's going to activate his moon of service, and this is what is going to make him do his actual role and help him go with his gut feeling. So you're looking at Saturn, which is the ruler of Aquarius, and it's in Aries, so it's all about charging into something passionately, and it deals with the bursts of energy and being able to really see the structure and structuring things quickly, because Saturn in Aries is all about like a big burst of energy. At the same time, it's conjunct his Mercury, so with his mind and with his sense of structure, perhaps with his teachings, or with, Saturn can represent many things. It could represent you being a teacher. It could also represent the mastery you've gained. But through the mixing of his mind and sense of structure, he charged into stuff and was able to put a lot of energy into the structuring of things, which helped him expand on the abstract ideas and bring a polar shift to the intellectual realm of things in the Jupiter in Aquarius. So you got one bit more information about how he handles his Jupiter in Aquarius, which rules the sixth house, and you kind of go like that. And now, Uranus is actually Uranus is actually, the second ruler of the ninth house. So the way he deals with his Jupiter is really through this Saturn and Mercury charging, but at the same time, it's helped by this Uranus in the third house, in Virgo. So he gets quick insights about the practical aspects of the mind. And it's almost in Leo, and the actual third house is ruled by Leo. So we're going to go back to his sun after. But, just having this Uranus like that at the beginning of Virgo really helps him create a practicality about the mind and create a certain sense of polar opposite that goes from one point to the other, bringing a certain moving forward of the energy that is reminiscent of Aquarius, because Uranus co-rules Aquarius, the ninth house ruler of, the ninth house ruler. So at the same time, you could even say that like his Uranus was opposite to his Jupiter in Aquarius. So there's a certain sense of like almost insanity to him, because he gets like these ideas which seem so practical, but that kind of come from an outer worldly perspective, and he's able to bring them in an abstract yet intellectual sense that moves the energy forwards. And this helps him, deal with his sixth house and how he's of service to others. So you could say that he's someone of service because through his insights about the practical structure of things that he gets from Uranus, and through his actual charging into the structures of things and putting a lot of energy to understand with his mind the structures in Aries, he was able to expand, and he was able to really fulfill his role and be of service through that. What else? Yeah, if you're looking at the actual, you could look at the ruler of the 10th house. Also, in the 10th house is the house of status. So, he is known for actually being kind of like one of the most, a really prominent figure in science. So just his Mercury, his Sun, even, because that's the image he outputs there, and his even his Venus, they're all in the 10th house. So we know who he is in a sense, we can see who he is. But Capricorn is all dealing with the structures of things. So if you're going at the actual ruler of the 10th house, it's Pisces. So at the same time, while he was really kind of like of the mind and being able to expand the beliefs of people and the intellectual understanding of like the Aquarian energy, he was able to really channel his own mind in a Piscean way. So you're going to go again at like the Jupiter. So the way he deals with his status, the way he deals with the structure of his image, the way he deals with his 10th house is first with his Jupiter in the 9th. So people know him through how he was able to expand really on the actual, intellectual ideas of the time, and the kind of like the science also that Aquarius represents. The second ruler of the 10th house is Neptune. So you're going to look at Neptune here, which is in Taurus, which is intercepted in the 11th house. So Taurus doesn't rule anything in this chart, Of course, there are things in Taurus. There's always going to be something in every sign, even if it's not a big planet. The sky is filled with objects, but no house rules Taurus in there. So if you're looking at like Neptune in Taurus, and Taurus for me is ruled by the Earth, is co-ruled by Venus. The real ruler of Venus is Libra, okay? So if you're looking at Taurus, it's all about the structures of things. It's all about the five senses. It's all about the tangible matter of things, right? Well, you're bringing Neptune in there, which brings a certain dissolution of the boundaries, being able really to penetrate into the rules of existence and almost bend them to your own liking, So perhaps even like in his image that we have, there's a certain Neptunian quality, there's a certain Piscean quality. And of course, because his sun is also in the 10th house and it's of Pisces, of the Pisces sign, like, of course, he's a Pisces. But at the same time, he was able really to kind of like bring a certain illusion, if you want, or really to pierce through the veil through his own Neptune in Taurus. Taurus, and kind of like embellish it at the same time. But I think he was like a very spiritual man in a sense. At the same time, it's the 11th house, and nowadays a lot of people are actually putting quotes online, and they're like, Astrolove is the best YouTube channel, and then they write Einstein because it gives the certain quote a credibility. So having his actual Neptune in the 11th really makes it so his image and how he's seen by multiple people will kind of like be in a blurred way. Some people think he's like that, some people like that, some people use his identity in a sense, to embellish the structure of their own quotes, embellish the structure of their own ideas. So, if you're looking at the actual, we already looked at the ruler of the 9th house. So if you want to go back to how his 10th house is played, you're looking at like the rulers, which is Jupiter. If you wanted to expand on that, you would look at the ruler of the 9th, which is, Saturn and Uranus. So again, his 10th house, his status is even boosted. It goes in a loop like that, so you could add a lot of information. And for the sake of condensing it, I'm trying to just show you the most pieces I can for now. If you're looking like at the 11th house to see how he's known, how his status is, not necessarily his status, but like the 10th house, the 10th house and the 11th house, like if you're looking at like the 11th house ruler, the line is actually the middle point between the status and how he's known elsewhere. So if you're looking there, it's really how the 11th house is initiated, and it works well with Aries, the initiation sign. And at the same time, Aries is like this force which pushes the energy to like move forward in a quick way, or like it's a quick combustion. So you would look at the ruler of Aries, and by the way, it's in the decan of the sun, so naturally we know him well because the 11th house ruler is in the decan of the sun. But if you only want to look at the traditional ruler, you're looking at Mars. So his Mars is in the 7th, so it means that, and Mars is exalted in Capricorn, so it's a certain way to be able to really structure Mars in a way that's constructive, in a way that can kind of bring people up to a certain understanding. So through how he is known in foreign lands and through science also, which is the 11th house, he was able to project a certain will for people to get heated up and really go into the structures of things, and if you want to look how he really was able to heat up people about the structures of things, you're looking at the ruler of the 7th house, which is again Saturn conjunct Mercury. So it deals with him charging into a certain understanding through his mind and through the structures. I'm just repeating myself, but you could see really deep into someone just by looking at the house rulerships like that and going around. And I remind you, we only looked at his ascendant right now, so that's only to know how he's going to play out his role in society. If you want to look at the actual, like how he's going to play out his love life, you would really look at where his Venus is placed. And I don't know his love life at all. I don't know much about him really. His Venus is placed and where his 7th house is placed. And if you want to look really, 7th house is more about the relationships. 5th house is more about the romance of things and the creativity. So if you're looking at how he actually is able to, his relationships, you would look at the 7th house, which the ruler is Saturn. So perhaps like he either was with someone in his life and it kind of like he built up something concrete with that person, or he kind of put off being with someone. I don't know how he done it, but it's a Saturnian energy, whatever, how it plays out. So you would go there, perhaps he charged right into a marriage because is Saturn is actually in Aries, so it can be hot-headed and just charge into something, really, and really structure stuff really quick. So perhaps that's the way he was actually dealing with the Venus, with the 7th house, how we would relate to others. If you're looking just And you know, he's got Mars in the seventh, so perhaps he got certain people, perhaps the women he encountered in his life were more challenging to him. Perhaps they brought a certain deal of like adversity to him. If you're looking at like the Venus, which is in the 10th, perhaps he was known to be someone who enjoys really the pleasures of life. Perhaps he was known to be kind of like feminine himself. Perhaps he was known for his wife. Perhaps his wife was known. Perhaps he was able to embellish really his status because Venus is in the 10th. But if you want to look really at how his Venus will play out, again, you're looking at like the ruler of the 10th. You're going to like, hey, look at Jupiter and Neptune, and you kind of go around like that. If you want to know how we create stuff, which I think is interesting for him because he created some interesting law in physics or science or whatever, how you want to call it, you're going to look at the 5th house, house of creation, of children and stuff like that. Looking at the 5th house, he's got nothing in there. And since Taurus is intercepted there, it also means that Scorpio will be intercepted on the other side, right? So at the same time in his 5th house, it's like through his creation, he was able to see behind the filters like a Scorpio was, able kind of to see like the emotional structures of things like Scorpio is, or like not necessarily the structure, but seeing the emotional depth of things or the watery and psychic foundations of things like Scorpio is. But that was hidden from the world in how they see his creation because Scorpio was intercepted there. Now, if you're looking at the actual, and it deals also with like his higher learning because his 5th house goes up and reaches for Sagittarius. But at the same time, you're looking at the ruler here of this 5th, which is Libra, is Venus. So he was able to balance principles in an objective way for the intellect to understand. That's how we kind of like activated his creation of things. If you want to go into deeper details, you go and look at the 10th house. It deals with his status, how he was able to embellish the structure and the status of things. And at the same time, this brought him a certain harmonizing principle to really the charging and mental aspect of things he was getting into. And really to the way his own ego was seen. You know, he's often seen like as a wise man or like as a goofy man. You know, there's like this poster or whatever that I saw many times of Einstein with like his tongue out, like, you know. So that's the way he was able to bring his Leo energy in. 5th house is linked to the 5th sign, which is Leo, creation, being playful in a sense, you know. It was playful in an objective and intellectual sense, and he understood the relativeness of things because it was Libra, but at the same time he was able to see like the psychic foundation of things and the psychic truth of things, and it dealt a little bit with the Sagittarian energy, you know. So you could like, I'm not gonna spend like the whole afternoon actually looking at like his chart, mainly because I haven't studied him and I don't want to say like shit that really doesn't make sense, but it's just to give you an average idea of how his energy was playing out. Whether really he was in a relationship or not, I don't know, but really, if you're looking at like the relationship, it's gonna deal with his Saturn, and you know, you gotta go from rulership to rulership. And really, if we wanted to kind of like bring it down to a simple few sentences, I guess, without talking about the placements, you could say he was a man that went from his gut feeling in a certain service to others because he had a good grasp, a good emotional grasp of the higher learnings, which brought him to a certain ability to change the perspective of people relating to sciences. All of this while kind of like acting goofy, but being able to bring this shift in a practical way, easily understandable by the mind. And at the same time, this man was really able to charge into the structures of things and really put a lot of energy into building up stuff quickly and making it pure, kind of like a fire if you wanted. And all of this brought him to really be able to show his ego to the world. And the way we see him is linked to his science in a sense. And the way he was kind of like a wise man kind of got him to dissolve some perceptions that people had about the actual structure of this earth, of this physical plane, you know, and the structures of light. And he was able to expand through his gut feeling about the multiple flows of fire, the multiple flow of life that existed, the multiple flows of light, and how it relates really to him. Because the moon in Sag, it relates to the fiery nature. It's able to create and to expand and to reduce and to really handle the energetic flow in a way that is comprehensible to his self. And he had the right toolkit to do all that which I said, you know. So that's pretty much what I had to say about Albert Einstein. But it was mainly, you know, a video to show you how to deal with the house rulership. So I hope it was of help to you. If you got any questions, put them down there. I'll try to answer them. And that's what I had to say. So have a good one.